Start recording. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the session 4 for business economics. Let's go ahead and start the topic elasticity. Today we're going to talk about elasticity. Okay, predicting prices. So in business economics, what you need to do and what we intend to do is to be able to predict prices. Basically, to predict quantitative effects of changes in demand and supply on prices and quantities, we need to know how responsive demand and supply are to price and other influences on buying plans and selling plans. So basically, our main goal is to be able to predict prices, quantitative effects that change the demand and supply will have changes in responsive demand and also supply, and that will influence prices. So it will change the buying and selling plans. Basically, demand being buying plans and supply being selling plans will be a lot influenced by changes on demand and supply that will change the prices. So it's good to be able to predict the prices. So price elasticity of demand is a unit-free measure of the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price when all other influences on buyer's plans remain the same. So first of all, we want to focus on price elasticity of demand. So one unit-free measure of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price is called price elasticity of demand. So when there's one unit change in the quantity demanded, basically responsiveness of the quantity demanded, according to a price change, will give us the price elasticity of demand. So calculating elasticity is the price elasticity of demand is calculated by using the formula percentage change in quantity demanded and then percentage change in price. So as you can see here, yeah, absolutely. Let me give you an example. For some reason, I think that the slide is not. Okay. Okay. So basically, a good example would be when there's a change in price. Let's say the price of a good, let's say a soda, is increased 10%. The difference in the quantity demanded, let's say when the soda is priced at $1, there is 20 units of demand, right? If the price is changed from $1 to $1.20, if the quantity demanded is reduced from 20 to 18, so going back to the formula is you calculate the percentage change in the demand, which is 2 divided by percentage change in price, which is 20 cents. So 20 cents compared to $1, and then the 2 units reduction in the quantity demanded. So we get that calculation. It gives us the elasticity of demand right here. So you see an elastic demand, unit elastic demand, and inelastic demand. So elastic demand, when there is basically a direct relationship between price change and quantity demanded. Unit elastic demand, when their slope is higher, so 1 unit change is 1 unit difference. And then inelastic is kind of a vertical, which the price change does not necessarily create any change in the quantity demanded. Okay? So, as you can see here, the demand is elastic if a given percentage change in price results in a larger percentage change in quantity demanded. So when there is a change, and that change in price results in a larger change in quantity demand, it means if the price changes, the quantity demanded changes also. For example, if a 2% fall in price results in 4% change in quantity demanded, then we have an elastic demand right there. Inelastic demand is if the price elasticity is less than 1. So, for example, if 3% decline in price just leads to 1% increase in quantity demanded, we call it inelastic. In this case, the percentage change in price is accompanied by a relatively smaller change in quantity demanded. So, is everybody following me so far? So it's pretty simple. It is elastic when 1% change it leads into more than 1% change in quantity demanded. That's elastic. Inelastic is when 2% change of price will lead into less than 2% change in quantity demanded. Unit elastic is the price elasticity equals 1, meaning that 1 unit change equals 1 unit change. So 1 unit change in price ends in 1 unit change in quantity demanded. Look at here. Price elasticities for a variety of products. So if you're lucky here, the China glassware, the elasticity is 2.27, but for housing, electricity, and bread, it's less than 1. So this is actually a good chart for you to look at and see where the elasticity is. And basically, that's very important for you as a business person to understand what type of business you want to do, or in whichever business you are, understand how the price change will affect the demand of your clients. So let's say if you are in a service industry, let's say electricity or bread or housing industry, you see that the elasticity of demand is less. It means that price change does not necessarily affect that demand that much, as much as those on the other side that have more than one like elasticity. So if you look at China glassware, it's 2.27. So a minor price change could lead into a big quantity demanded change. Or lamb and mutton, you see 2.65. People will stop eating those if the price goes up. So, but like for housing, it's less than 1/10%, 0.01%. So it's 1/10%. Sorry. So as you can see, that will give you a good idea, a clear idea of how the demand will be affected with the price change. Any questions so far? No? Okay, very good. Or let's say, and as you can see in this chart, the elasticity is actually increasing as we go along the chart. So, and this is elasticity for services. So for products, we have different elasticity, and the formula is actually very simple, the same way that we discussed. Please mute your microphone. So it's percentage change in quantity percentage change in price. Could you please mute your microphone? Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about something called substitutability. The greater the number of substitutes for a good, the more elastic its demand will be. So, as you can see, we discussed this with the paradox of water and diamond example in last session, saying that how come the water that is so actually important for our survival is so much cheaper than diamonds. So it's all about substitutability. When there are several substitutes for a product, it's elastic. But when there's none, then it will be inelastic. So beef has a lot of substitutes, poultry, fish, and soy products. So that's why back in the previous chart, you see beef and lamb was among the highest, basically, elasticity. In contrast, like drugs have little or no substitutes, or even diamonds have no substitutes. That's why a drug addict's demand is much more inelastic than a beef eater's. So the drug addict will pay whatever amount that they give them just because there's no substitute for that addict. But for someone who likes to eat poultry or beef, they can eat so many different stuff instead. So that's why they're basically it's more elastic. So the price change will actually change the demand. But for that addict guy, the price change will not change the demand. So product definition. In this regard, the elasticity of demand also depends on how narrowly the product is defined. So when we define a product, we got to make sure that we define the product as narrowly as possible. For example, which do you think has a more elastic demand, Chevron gas or gas? Who wants to answer that question? Well, first say the elasticity depends on how narrowly the product is defined. So which one is more elastic, Chevron gas or gas? Who got to answer this question? Chevron gas, that's correct, because it's well defined, it's more defined. The demand for Chevron gas is much more elastic than the demand for gas, because many brands such as Shell, Texaco, US Gasoline, Arco, all these type of brands are out there, but there's no good substitutes for gas. So, but when we say Chevron, there's so many different substitutes. That's why there's elasticity. But when you just say gas, what is the substitute for gas? I mean, it's just everybody needs gas, so there's not much of elasticity right there. Proportion of income is another aspect. Other things are equal. The higher the price of the good relatively to your budget, the greater will be your elasticity of demand for it. So if the price of the goods relates relative or compared to your budget, the higher the price is, the more elastic your demand for it will be. A 10% increase in the price of pencils will amount to only a few pennies. with little response in the amount of your demand. But 10% increase in the price of housing would have a significant impact on quantity of houses you would purchase. So the relationship between your salary, your income, your budget, and the price change in that product has a very direct correlation with regard to the elasticity of your demand. So, like in this example, if the price change of housing, there is just a minor percentage, like 1, 2, 3% or 10% of difference, even 2% could total up to many thousands of dollars, and that will extremely affect your demand for the product, which is the housing. But for pencils, let's say, or markers, or erasers, or all those stuff that are very cheap, the price change, even like 10-20% of the price change will not total up to that much of price change relative to your budget or income. So that will not be that much of an elastic. There's not elasticity. It's for sure less than 1. And it's considered an inelastic demand. Then time. In general, demand will tend to be more elastic in the longer run than in the shorter run. So during the energy crisis, back in 1970s, the demand of oil was very inelastic in the short run, because that was an energy crisis. Everybody had to pay for energy, gas, fuel, and everything. So they would not care for the price change that much. Then, however, over time, business invested in energy-saving technologies while people started driving more fuel-efficient cars, and demand elasticity increased. So, as you can see, you cannot just say elasticity of a certain demand will stay the same forever. According to different basically changes during the time, the elasticity will also change. So, to answer your question, Mr. Saburi, regarding the brands, that also relates back to the previous slide, proportion of income a lot. Because if you, let's say, buy a branded product, let's say you want to buy a branded item, you want to buy a Giorgio Armani or Louis Vuitton product versus just a regular product. And let's say you're shopping for a pair of shoes, so to speak. So for a pair of shoes, if the proportion of the price to your income is a lot, there's a great chance that you won't be able to afford it. So elasticity is pretty high when it comes to brands. Because branding, you're talking about the same functionality of the product, but just brand is adding so much price to it. If you want a pair of Louis Vuitton shoes, it could be anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000. Whereas you could just buy a pair of shoes with like $40, $50. So the item of a brand, when it's introduced to the scenario, it will cause a lot of changes in the price. So basically, it's a hugely elastic option in a scenario. So the elasticity is pretty high when it comes to brand. Because if you're just caring for the product, if you just need a pair of shoes, you don't care necessarily what type of brand if your income or the price you can afford is not that much. Okay? You're welcome. So, price elasticity and total revenue. Now let's turn to our final task of this lesson, which is to demonstrate just how powerful the price elasticity concept can be in both business and government applications. If you raise the price of a product, will the total revenue from selling that product go up or down? That's a question. Who wants to answer that? Okay, Mr. Navabi, please go ahead. Who wants to answer this question? If we raise the price of a product, will the total revenue go up or down? Who answers this question? Mr. Saburi, would you want to? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I think it depends on different factors. That first, the product in the market. What is the status of that product? How it is? How many people are like that product? But in general, the revenue from that product it will decrease by the time because many other products, other substitutes will replace the product that the price is going up, unless this product, the marketing for this product and the functionality of this product is better than other products competing with in the market. So it is something very complicated in my point of view, that whether the revenue will go up or down. So it is not certain. I cannot say exactly that what will go, what will happen to the revenue, to the total revenue.
So how do you relate it to elasticity, Mr. Saburi? How do you think elasticity is important in answering this question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it is directly related to elasticity, because the other competing products and market will come in and replace this product, and it will there will be room for more competitors will be standing in front of this product, because the price is going up. So the elasticity will increase, will go up for this specific product.
So my question is, if the elasticity is high, would the price increase your revenue?
No, it will decrease revenue if the elasticity is high.
So what if the elasticity is low? Would that increase your revenue?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it will increase revenue.
Yes, that's a good point. So basically, most people, intuition tells them that total revenue will go up when the price increases. This is one of those rare cases in economics that where intuition can be dead wrong. So let's first look at how a firm's total revenue is calculated. So total revenue equals the price times the quantity you sell. So let's say if you sell 20 items and it's $10 each, so it's 200. That's your total revenue. Now, knowing that, what do you do about price elasticity? You might already be able to answer the question like this. Suppose your business sells audio cassette tapes, and I tell you that the demand for your product is relatively price elastic. So looking at this formula, what would you do to raise your total revenue? Raise or lower your price? You want to answer this question? Who wants to answer this question? Lower the price for a while? You lower your price. Because in the total revenue formula, P will go down by less than quantity go up. So when you have the elasticity high on a formula, the P, the reduction in the price, is less than the increase in the quantity. So the whole multiplication, which gives you the total revenue, will increase as total. Right? So look at here. At different places in the chart, you see different elasticity and different prices. So when the elasticity is less than 1, increase in prices will increase the revenue, because increasing prices will increase the total multiplication and the total revenue. But then as the elasticity goes up, the price decrease gives you more total revenue, because when you reduce the price just a tiny little bit, your quantity demanded will increase a lot and quantity sold, so your total revenue will be increased. And at the elasticity of 1, increase and decrease in prices equals the change in the quantity. So your revenue will not change that much because you're at 1 elasticity. So that's how elasticity is important. Understanding whether your elasticity is high or low will help you in making more revenue. It helps you understand. So as you can see in the middle, your total revenue stays the same when there is basically price changes. But at the bottom, when the elasticity is less than 1, decreasing prices, increasing prices increase your total revenue because it's inelastic. And then at elasticity higher than 1, decreasing prices increases your revenue. So it's the other way around. So when your elasticity is less than 1, means it's inelastic, means changing in prices. Well, I mean, if you increase your prices, you'll increase your total revenue. But when elasticity is high, it means changes in price will reduce the demand if it's for higher price. Is everybody following so far? Okay, very good. So just for example, look at the case of CEO. He was the chief executive officer who tried to bail out his software company by raising prices. But demand was highly elastic and total revenue fell, so his company went out of business. So you see how important your decision could be as a manager, as a businessman, as a person who is involved in a project, in an NGO who wants to make the project a success. So your decision in, price changes, not understanding the elasticity and inelasticity of a demand could cause major troubles in your business. So example, a bus service case. Facing a revenue shortfall, she ordered an analysis of the elasticity of demand for bus services. When she found out the bus demand was also highly elastic, she recommended to her supervisor that the transit authority lower bus fares. And that the pricing strategy did not indeed increase the total revenue. Did increase. Because why? Because when you reduce the prices and the elasticity of demand is very high, so the total revenue will increase because the quantity demanded increase. Because of that minor, let's say you reduce the price by $5. Let's say or maybe it's too much. Maybe the bus fare is $5. You reduce it by $1. So instead of $5, you charge $4. But the quantity demanded will increase more than $1. It will increase, let's say, by three, and that will increase your total revenue because the item that you sell is more. So the total revenue will increase. So the elasticity is really important in understanding how the market will respond and how they will basically react towards your initiation, towards your decisions. That's really important to understand how the elasticity works. So another example is a marketing strategy. It's not just pricing strategy that the concept of elasticity of demand can help with. It's also broader marketing strategy. Why do you think many airlines offer fair discounts to people who stay over on a Saturday night? Who wants to answer this question? Why do you think hotels or airline industries, they charge higher those who want to stay Saturday nights, which is a weekend? Maybe I volunteer someone this time. Ms. Oria, do you want to answer this question? Do you want to answer this question? Who is going to answer this question this time? Mr. Miyako, would you like to answer this question? Who's going to volunteer to answer the question this time? Why do you think airline industries, they charge more on Saturday nights? Mr. Mohammed Aziz, do you want to answer this question?
Can I say something about this question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Saturday nights are the rush times because many people have opportunity to travel because it's a holiday in the West. So the prices of the ticket prices goes up. So so here the discounts. So a discount is given for those who are not traveling at this rush time. It will increase the revenue by by selling the tickets with higher price and actually before Saturday night or after Saturday night the demand is lower, so they want to fill those gaps by offering some discounts for those who are traveling in Saturday night. The airlines cannot respond to the demand of the people who are respond to all the demand of the people who are traveling on Saturday night. So they want to distribute it during the other weekdays. I don't know whether it will increase the revenue, but I think it will increase the revenue because the empty seats will be filled by that strategy.
So that's a good point, but how do you relate it to elasticity? Let's just have
yeah, that is something difficult that to relate it to elasticity because we can link it to elasticity on the other weekdays other than Saturdays because on the other than Saturday weekdays the elasticity is high because many airlines have empty seats and so they are competing on those seats on those to attract more passengers. So that is the point. Of course, on Saturdays it will be all airlines will have enough passengers to carry, but not on other weekdays. So elasticity is high in other weekdays. So they are giving more discount for those days.
So, yeah, that's true. Elasticity is higher on the slow days, and on weekends, normally the elasticity is inelastic because people want to travel regardless, and they don't mind paying more fares. But the point here is, why do you think airlines give coupons to those who want to stay overnight on Saturday rather than return on that same day?
So the rush hours and the lack of electricity, I think.
You are almost getting there, Mr. Sabri, because you mentioned that the elasticity is pretty inelastic. The airlines is pretty overbooked. Saturdays are really busy. So why do you think the airlines would give discounts for those who will stay the Saturday?
Yeah, because they want they will have enough seats on the other night. So
Yeah. So exactly. So because if someone is willing to stay on a Saturday rather than return back to their place that they came from, that will give the airlines more place to service those who need those services. They can make more revenue. At the same time, they are giving extra days so that the person can return after the rush days, so they will stay, and that's why they get the promotion. But at the same time, for those who want to go exactly the same back to the city that they were coming from, they charge them extra because they're at the peak time. So you see, when it's inelastic, they don't necessarily offer like coupons or discounts on the same day, but that's how they encourage the passengers to purchase their tickets after the rush days. So you see how elasticity has also affected the marketing strategy, how marketing strategy is also influenced by basically elasticity. So it's like sorting out customers. Airlines are trying to sort out two different kinds of customers. First, business people with more inelastic demands who want to fly home on the weekends and perhaps stay with their families, versus pleasure travelers who don't mind staying over for Saturday night. So airlines can effectively charge two prices, a higher one for those who are business travelers and they are willing to pay that extra money because they want to be back with their families on the same day. So they're business travelers, they have to do the business traveling and they have to be back on the weekend with their family. Rather than those passengers who are there for pleasure, they don't mind to stay for a couple of days and return on next day or perhaps on Monday, rather than those business passengers that they have to return the same day. So that's how they can charge extra the business travelers and give coupons and separate those pleasure travelers from business travelers. So you see how even in marketing strategies that it's used. Another question, why don't most new cars sell at their sticker price? Put another way, why do you have to go in and haggle with your when you buy a car, whereas if you go and buy a gallon of milk, you pay the sticker price. Let's say you want a milk, like a gallon of milk, it's priced at $3. You never bargain, you just pay that $3. But when the car is priced at $24,000, you always try to get a discount for $4,000 or whatever amount of dollars. So it's comparison versus impulse buyers. Car salespersons are trained to sort out comparison shoppers. So with more elastic demands from impulse buyers who have inelastic demands. But not listing and selling price of cars, the salesperson can charge the impulse buyers more. So as you can see, the marketeers and the salespeople always are trained to separate buyers from each other. You have two separate types of buyers. So there are comparison shoppers with more elastic demand, those who will compare the price and make sure to get the lowest price possible, because that's very influential in the purchase, rather than the impulse buyers, but they need to buy the car. They don't care. The price does not necessarily change their mind that much. They are impulse buyers. Whereas on the comparison shoppers, it's for them it's a matter of every penny. So knowing what type of customer you're dealing with, that will influence the whole deal. So you as a salesperson should be able to separate these two from each other. So, but when you're listing the price, you try to list the price at the maximum level possible. So when you face these two separate customers, you're able to accordingly charge them. So if the buyer is a comparison shopper, you can always reduce the price to satisfy that customer, but you are priced at a level that an impulse buyer will pay you, so your total revenue will increase this way. So are you guys following so far? Yeah, I just saw the question from Mr. Miyako regarding the previous slide, which was for marketing strategy. So it was just, the question was asking for whether discount, why do they give discount? So I think we sort of covered that question, right, Mr. Miyako? Do you still have any questions in that regard? Yeah, beautiful. Okay, some public policy applications. Finally, the concept of price elasticities can also help us think through a wide variety of public policy problems. Look at here. What happens in the figure when the U.S. government escalates its war on drugs by interdicting large quantities of illegal shipments from Colombia? So, basically, as you can see, going back to here, when the prices of illegal shipments and illegal products will increase when, or they become more elastic when the U.S. government tries to put more regulation. So you see, or like crack addicts have to now pay more for their fix because of these problems. So now when they legalize drugs, the logical thing to do, at least from an economic point of view, is to just legalize the drugs, because beyond the obvious moral question raised by that proposal, some economists have argued that while drug addicts are highly insensitive to price, the casual drug user is highly price sensitive. So you see, both. So a lot of stuff can be looked at with the economic perspective. So when the drugs are not legalized, so the prices are much higher. So that's how it discourages a lot of addicts from the drugs. So you see, or when it's legalized and it's highly priced, then it could discourage. So it's like the economic perspective of even the problem. So you will see how even the problems of the society can be solved using economics. So economics is not just a matter of dollars, it's a matter of solving economic issues. A lot of these problems basically could be solved using economics. But countries like Netherlands, when the drugs is available to everyone, by setting a price and taking it out of the like illegal perspective, their perspective in economics is by putting it out there and pricing it at a certain price, it will discourage a lot of people from using it. But at the same time, some economists can come and say, for it to be available to everyone, the availability is like more of a supply. So increasing supply can actually satisfy a certain level of demand and actually create certain level of demand, because you have more supply, so the demand could also go higher. So it's all the matter of how you argue. So if the war on drugs has little effect on curbing consumption by drug addicts, it nonetheless may have a big effect on reducing consumption among casual users who presumably respond to the price hikes by substituting cheaper drugs like alcohol or more expensive drugs like cocaine. So you see, price could be actually a discouraging factor for even people that you want them to not to use drugs. So even and basically that is the case, like in US, the tobacco and alcohol has much higher tax or rather than other products. They call it seen products, and the seen products, the providers have to pay a higher percentage of tax for these products. This way, the government is discouraging customers for using those. Like if you want to buy a pack of cigarettes, you're paying a lot of taxes rather than buying a chewing gum. So this way, the government is actually pushing away a lot of customers who are price sensitive. So instead of using alcohol, they will go for substitute products, maybe soda drinks or energy drinks. So agricultural price support also is another aspect. The problem here is that the demand for farm products is highly inelastic. It's like less than half a point. It's like 0.2 or 0.25. So this means that during a year of bumper crops, the quantity demanded will change only a little bit, but food prices will go much higher, because elasticity and inelasticity is something that we need to understand in order to deal with the price changes and the products that are in the market. So it's really important to understand what's going on with regard to elasticity, inelasticity, the price change and all that. So it's basically very important to realize what you're dealing with. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, the paradoxical result. Many farmers go bankrupt when the crops are plentiful, because one way to address this problem is to restrict farm output, and this has been regularly done with many farm products, from milk and oranges to corn and wheat. So you see, when there are plenty of products, because the price is not an issue, basically when they cannot make enough money to cover their costs, they might go bankrupt. Because there are plenty of products, so they might just lose it. Or taxes. A third application involves in levying of so-called excise or sales taxes. If the government imposes a sales tax on a product that is highly elastic, what do you think will happen? Again, same goes to the alcohol and tobacco example. The government has imposed the higher taxes, so it actually reduces the revenue also. So the total revenue falls. So you as a producer will be discouraged when you're paying higher taxes on those products. So at least most legislators are smart enough to seek out products with more inelastic demand to taxes, alcohol and tobacco. Okay? So here is the end of the slides. Let us focus on the task for today. So your task for today is using the formula of total revenue equals the price times quantity write that down. Using formula of this, please compare how changes in price will increase or decrease the total revenue considering the concept of elasticity. Okay, so your task is to compare two products and tell me how price change will decrease or increase the total revenue with using the concept of elasticity. Does everybody understand the question? Any question with regard to the task? Does everybody understand what we mean by this? Okay, so take a few minutes and think about it, and let's discuss it in the class in a few minutes. Okay, so who wants to start? Who's going to start answering? Okay. The first product is a laptop computer. When the price of laptop computers decreased, the quantity of selling the product has been increased, which means that total revenue also increased. Another product is the house. When the price of there's production of many products and yeah, very good, Muslim. Yeah, you got the concept. So in your first example, the laptop computer is price elastic, but kind of your both examples are price elastic, and you didn't mention any example of a price inelastic product. So maybe you could also come up with an example like mouse pads or maybe mouses or keyboards price change is not that much, and that's a price inelastic product. So in a computer example, you could say, like, let's say I mean, that's also an inelastic change. So, so basically, it's the change in the price of the mouse pad does not necessarily change their price decisions. So their elasticity of the mouse pads is not high. Yeah. Okay. Who wants to go next? Who wants to give us the next example? Who wants to do the next example? For example, vegetable products are more price inelastic. Okay, good. So can you tell us how using the formula total revenue equals price times quantity demanded, we will explain that, the price change. So we're supposed elasticity for shoes is high. So increasing the price shoe will decrease the demand for shoes. And then please keep that in mind. There's always a change when there's always a price change, there will be always a quantity demanded change. But you're talking about when the changes in price would be less or more compared to quantity, meaning that one unit price change causes more than one unit quantity demanded change, or equal to one or less than one. So that's how we should actually address it. So let's say for some product that's inelastic, one unit price change will cause less than one unit quantity demanded change. But then for when the product is elastic, one unit price change will cause more than one unit quantity demanded change. So keep that in mind. So we are keeping that in mind as well. So by elasticity more than one, you mean 1 unit price change equals more than 1 unit quantity demanded change. Okay, how about other examples? How about Ms. Oria? Would you like to give us your example? Mr. Mohammed Aziz, Mr. Nawabi, I haven't got your examples yet. Are you guys going to give us your example? So in the meantime that you're thinking about it, I'm going to show you a clip on elasticity of like price elasticity to give you more explanation, and you can think about it a little bit more, and then I'll get back to you. So work on your examples while I'm playing this for you.
There are many types of elasticity. In particular, I will focus on the price elasticity of demand. Before I get into specific discussion of elasticity, let me ask you a question. If a business wants to generate more revenue, should it raise the price of its product or lower the price of its product? I ask because I have a friend who runs a children's bookstore, and when she found out that I was an economist, she asked me this question. Well, actually, she asked if she should be giving an educator discount, but what this really meant was that she wanted to know if she should discount or lower her prices. So generally, what would you say? Should a business owner increase prices or decrease prices in order to generate more revenue? The answer, as usual, is it depends. Think about it. When your local electric company wants to raise more revenue, it will enact a rate increase. Yet, when an airline wants to quickly generate additional revenue, it will cut ticket prices. Which approach is correct? They both are. Here's the issue. If I raise my prices, I know that quantity demanded, or the willingness to purchase on the part of my consumers, will drop. That's just the law of demand. But what the law of demand doesn't tell me is how much the quantity demanded will drop. When I raise my price, will my customers be very sensitive to the price increase, cutting back a lot on their purchases? This would be bad for me because I'd lose a lot of revenue. But if I raise my price and my customers only buy a little bit less, not reacting too much to the price increase, this is good. I'd see increased overall revenue. So the crucial issue here is to find out how sensitive my customers will be to a price change. Elasticity is a measure of sensitivity or responsiveness to price. In equation form, the elasticity of demand, or ED, is equal to the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. Because demand exhibits an inverse or negative relationship, elasticity of demand will be a negative number. I use percentage change to measure elasticity rather than absolute change. Let me illustrate why. If I tell you that product price has gone up by $1, this would be the absolute change. Is this a big change or a small change? It depends. What's the product? More to the point, what was the original price? Okay, look, say we're talking about a pack of gum. Originally the price was $1, now it's $2. This represents an absolute change of $1, but is it a big change or a small change? It's actually a pretty big change. Price doubled or increased by 100%. What if we're talking about a textbook rather than a pack of gum? Originally the price was $100, now it's $101. This is still an absolute change of $1, but is it a big change or a small change? In this case, it's a small change. Price has increased by 1%. Bottom line is that we need to know not only the dollar amount of the price change, but also how this compares to where we started. Now, technically, the formula for elasticity of demand is the percentage change in the quantity demanded over the percentage change in price, which can be found by taking the ratio of the difference between the new and the old quantities over the average of the new and the old quantities all over the ratio of the difference between the new and the old price over the average of the new and the old prices. Frankly, I found that if I use this version of the elasticity formula, students' eyes glaze over. People get so hung up on the math that they lose sight of the intuition and what elasticity means. So I'll be sticking to the slightly easier form and will frame my questions for you accordingly. How would you actually use this formula? Take a look at this article about the Clinton administration's proposed cigarette tax policy. If you look at the last paragraph, you'll find enough information to determine the elasticity of demand for youth smoking. Remember, elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. The article states that for every 10% increase in price, there's a 7% decrease in youth smoking. This means that elasticity of demand, according to the formula, is minus 7% over plus 2%, or negative 0.7. Okay, now what do? I know that the elasticity of demand for youth smoking is minus 0.7, but what does it mean? The critical component to look at when dealing with elasticity of demand is the magnitude. How big is this number? The bigger the number, the more people respond to the price. The smaller the number, the less people respond to price. The fact that the number is negative only signifies that demand is a negative or inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So if I care about the size of the elasticity number rather than a sign, let's make things easier and just look at the absolute value, or the size only, of elasticity of demand. In this example, the absolute value of the elasticity of demand is 0.7. Again, what does this number really mean, and what does it tell us? Ultimately, the key value where elasticity is concerned is 1. In case of youth demand for cigarettes, the size of the elasticity figure is less than 1. Since elasticity of demand equals the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price, this means that the absolute value of this ratio is less than 1. It follows then, in order for this ratio to be less than 1, it must be the case that the size of the price change is greater than the size of the quantity change. What this tells me is that it takes a relatively large price change to initiate a relatively small quantity demanded reaction. In other words, if the elasticity of demand is less than 1, people don't react much to price changes. They're insensitive to price changes, or their demand is inelastic. Question: does this make sense that where cigarettes are concerned, people don't react much to price changes? Note that the article specifies data for youth smoking. Do you think that youth sensitivity to cigarette prices is any different from adult sensitivity? Which group would respond more to a price change, youth smokers or adult smokers? If you thought that youth smokers would respond more to a price change than adult smokers, you're right. Adults tend to have more disposable income, so a price increase affects them less. In addition, the nicotine addiction is likely to be stronger for someone who's been smoking longer. This means that the size of elasticity for adults will be even smaller than the magnitude of the elasticity of demand for youth smokers, indicating a smaller reaction to any price change. One last question for you regarding inelastic demand. If the absolute value of the elasticity of demand is less than 1, that is, people don't respond much to a price change, would you raise your price or lower your price to generate more revenue? Well, the demand for electricity is inelastic. When the price changes, people tend to purchase about the same amount of electricity. We don't like the rate increases, but other than trying to conserve a bit here or there, we continue to consume the electricity. This means that the electric company could raise prices quite a bit and not see very much decrease in the quantity demanded. As a result, total revenue, price per unit times the number of units sold, will increase overall. What if the absolute value of the elasticity had been greater than 1? That would mean that the absolute value of the percent change in quantity demanded over the percent change in price is greater than 1, which could only be true if the size of the quantity change is greater than the size of the price change. So having a value of the elasticity that's greater than 1 indicates a relatively large quantity demanded reaction to a relatively small price change, or demand is elastic. Question: if it's the case that demand is elastic, would you raise your price or lower your price in order to generate more revenue? Answer: the demand for airline tickets is fairly elastic, meaning that customers react a lot to fairly small price changes. So by decreasing prices a little bit, the airlines will see a relatively large increase in quantity demanded or ticket sales. Overall, this would yield greater total revenue. Is it possible for elasticity of demand to be equal to 1? Technically it is. If so, the size of the quantity change is going to be equal to the size of the price change. The changes exactly offset one another. That is, a 10% increase in price results in a 10% decrease in quantity demanded, and there would be no change in total revenue. Next time, characteristics that determine elasticity of demand.
Okay. So that's the slide, and put that back on. Okay. Okay. So that was a nice video on elasticity and inelasticity of demand versus prices. So are you guys ready to give me your examples? Those of you who did not yet. Ms. Oria, Mr. Muhammad Aziz, and Mr. Navabi. Are you guys there? Are you listening to the class? Mr. Muhammad Aziz, Mr. Navabi, and Mrs. Oria, would you like to give us your example? Yeah, but let's discuss it in the class. I want to make sure you are on the same track. So it's just part of the class participation. So let's just do it in the class. At least you can tell me what products you're going to choose and then how you want to compare it, so at least I know that you're on the right track. Okay. Sir Muhammad Aziz, would you want to give us your example? Mrs. Oria, how about you? Corolla car, when the price car decreases, quantities decrease. Okay. So do you think Toyota Corolla is a elastic or inelastic with regard to prices? Okay. So just going back to here, you can actually pick one of these products if you want. Like looking at housing, the product, let's say a house, where the elasticity is less than 1, you can use that total of revenue, the price times the quantity demanded. So when you reduce the price for housing, because the elasticity is less than 1, so it's inelastic.